Hey, this is Long again, and I know that my third video on my SR-X9000 was supposed to be my last video, but I really wanted to just make this video to clarify and also to correct some of the things that I said in some of my prior videos. I also wanted to make this video to kind of give you some takeaways about the new Stax Flagship SR-X9000s. And so let's get started. The first thing is that I wanted to correct one of the things that I said in the prior video, which is that the SR-007 Mark 1s did everything better than the 9000s except for maybe the high frequencies. And so actually the 9000s do two main things better than the 007 Mark 1s. The first is that it's way more transparent and detailed, and the second is that the 9000s are faster. So the responsiveness of the sounds that you hear on the 9000s come faster. So like for example, like if you hear a snare drum or you hear a guitar string on the 9000s, you feel like the sound is produced faster, more responsive than the 007 Mark 1s. And this is very clear when you listen to the 9000s for a while and then you go back to the 007s. You'll feel like the 007s are a little bit congested compared to the 9000s. And I point out this quality of the 9000s not to say that I actually enjoy that quality more than the 007s. The 007s definitely are not like veiled. The sounds in the 007 are transparent when you get used to the way that it represents the sound. So a lot of people will say that the Stax 007 Mark 1s are a dark headphone, which means that the headphones are more bass heavy. And I actually don't think that the 007s are a dark headphone at all. And I want to correct that misconception with two points. The first being that most people who have the Stax 007 Mark 1s don't have an amplifier that can properly amplify the headphones. You need at least a Kevin Gilmore solid state high frequency or high voltage amplifier or the KGSSHV. That's the baseline amplifier that you should use with something like the Stax 007 Mark 1s. And so the other misconception that I think people have about the 007s being a dark headphone is that we should be considering a headphone dark or bright based on listening to the headphone at live volumes. And so what I'm trying to say is that when you are listening to the Stax 007 Mark 1s at lower volumes, yes, the bass frequencies are more pronounced at lower volumes. But once you turn the volume up to close to live volumes, what happens is the bass frequencies are more sensations in your head, and the mid-range and the high frequencies are more pronounced in terms of the actual sounds. And so when you turn the Stax 007 Mark 1s to close to live volumes, it actually just sounds like it just sounds like it's live. Like it sounds, the bass in the 007 Mark 1s gives the sound body and a visceral feeling that closely represents what it sounds like when it's live. And so the most amazing thing to me about the Stax 007 Mark 1s is that it's able to recreate that visceral and that air reverberation that you get when you listen to live music. When you walk into a bar or a venue that's playing live music, it's undeniable that live music is playing, and you can kind of feel it in the air, because when you hear like a bass, when you hear drums, or you hear guitar or whatever in a bar or in a venue, you feel like the air is reverberating, and you feel like there's a sense of visceralness and thickness in the air that comes from the live instruments playing. And I feel like the Stax 007 Mark I's is one of the only headphones I've listened to that can actually recreate air moving within a room. And so that brings up one of my main issues with the Stax SR-X9000, which is that the sound is thinner. And I think the biggest issue, or the biggest thing that will cause you to be unsatisfied with the X9000 is that the mid-range on the X9000 is more recessed compared to the 007s. And so for me, the way that the 007s, the balance of the mids and the bass and the highs on the 007 to me is perfect. The mids aren't too forward, they're not too recessed. On the X9000, you will, I think, be annoyed with the mid-range on the X9000, especially if you listen to a lot of vocal music. And even when I listen to classical music on the X9000, I feel like it's the instruments are a little bit too like not pronounced enough, and also they're not thick enough. Like they don't have that visceral feel that you feel like the air is moving within the room. And so the 007 Mark I's definitely do that aspect like much better to me than the X9000s. And it's one of the things that I think if you own a 007 Mark I on a proper amplifier, that you will not be satisfied with the X9000s in terms of the mid-range, and especially if you listen to vocals and that kind of thing. So that's the number one takeaway that I think I can provide to you in this video, which is that the mid-range on the X9000 is more recessed compared to the 007 Mark I's. And to give it like a quantity, I would say it's like twice as much. Like the mids on the X9000 is twice as recessed compared to the 007s, which isn't really I say twice because it's just in my mind. I feel like I would like the mid-range on the X9000 to be like twice as actually I wouldn't say twice. It's just it's like a perceptual issue. I feel like it's twice as twice as recessed as the 007s. And so I think that long term, I think that if you are planning to get the X9000, I really don't think you should get it, because I think that you should spend the money on maybe just the regular Stax 007 Mark IIs or something like that. Because I think if you value vocals or you value mid-range, long term I don't think the X9000 will be a headphone that you will enjoy, especially if you already own a 007 type headphone. And so I really wanted to also go into like a kind of a mini story that I had, or a mini experience that I had with the X9000, which is that there was one night when I was listening to the X9000, and I was listening to it for a while, and I was thinking like, wow, this headphone sounds amazing. Like I was thinking that maybe that all my negative opinions on the X9000 were wrong, and I was just being overly harsh about the headphones. And so I was enjoying the headphone a lot, and I was thinking that, wow, like this headphone sounds amazing. And so what I did was I went back upstairs to listen to my 007 Mark 1s. And that's when I started realizing that, wow, like, you know, the X9000 is a great, even amazing sounding headphone, but the 007 is still like a lot better to me because, you know, so I just wanted to tell you about an experience I had last night, which is when I was listening to A Case of You by Joni Mitchell on the 007 Mark 1s. Her voice, just 100%, like, this is not hyperbole or overstatement or anything. Like, it just sounded like 100% she was singing like 2 feet in front of my face. And not only was she singing in front of my face, like I felt the air. I felt like her voice and the air, her breath and everything. I felt it in front of my face. And there was no way for my brain to deny that she was singing in front of my face. And it was like, you know, it's one of the most amazing experiences that you can have in audio, to just be totally fooled into thinking that the music is there, like the music is being reproduced live in front of your face. And so I was listening to that on my 007 Mark 1s, and then I went back downstairs to listen to the X9000, and it's just it's not the same. Like, it's not that level of perfection. Like, the X9000 definitely sounded great. Like, I can hear her voice, and her voice sounded great in terms of the frequency reproduction and everything, but it didn't sound like it was there. And the main reason is that the X9000 lacks that level of thickness and lacks that level of the magic that is able to recreate the movement of air. So one of the things that I said in my prior videos is that the 007s have more of like an airy bubble around the instruments, or around the voices, or around the sounds. And that's not the correct thing that I was trying to say. What I was trying to say is that the Stax 007 Mark 1s have this magical way of reproducing the movement of air within the room. So you can actually feel like there's air moving with the music. Like, the music reverberates the air, and the air is like moving within the room somehow. So like the X9000, it can't do that. Like, for example, on the X9000, you can hear the instruments and they're very clear, but then you don't feel the instruments as much as you do on the 007 Mark 1s. And when I say that you don't feel them as much as you do on the 007 Mark 1s, the 007 Mark 1s, the way that they characterize the movement of air within the room is basically realistic to me. It sounds like you are in that room. And so it's just this undeniable feeling when you listen to the 007 Mark 1s, that you're listening to something that's real, compared to the X9000s, which is you're listening to something that you can intellectually appreciate on the X9000s, because the X9000s recreates sound very clear, very transparent, and very fast. And so again, the X9000 is, first of all, not as thick as the 007 Mark 1s. The 007 Mark 1s have, to me, the perfect level of thickness in the sounds. The 007 Mark 1s reproduces bass in a realistic way, especially when you listen to the music at close to live volumes. The mid-range on the X9000 is recessed. making vocals sound kind of a little bit frustratingly too far back. The sound of instruments on the X9000s are more pronounced in an almost unnatural way. So a lot of the instruments that you listen to on the X9000, you hear them more than you would think that you would hear them when you're listening to live music. I think the best example of this is that I feel like there's a little bit of a mid-bass hump on the X9000 where bass drums and also like the bass that you hear in jazz recordings, they're a little bit too pronounced within the spectrum. For example, I think I was listening to an Adele song. I forget which one it is. I think it was actually let me find out what it is, and I'll record this thing again. Hold on. All right, it was actually When We Were Young by Adele. And so midway through that song, the bass drums start kicking in, and on the X9000, the bass drum on that song is very pronounced. It's almost like a mid-bass hump. It's a little bit distracting, actually, because the bass drum, you kind of hear it, but it kind of you hear it, it's too pronounced compared to the recessed mid-range. And so on the 007 Mark 1s, the bass drums are there, but since the mid-range is more forward, it doesn't really distract you from Adele's vocals. And so actually, I just went downstairs to listen to the X9000 to confirm what I'm telling you right now. And while I was listening to it, I was trying to like find the exact Adele song that had this thing that I noticed. And I was listening to some other Adele songs, and I was like, wow, like the X9000 sound amazing. Like maybe I'm wrong about what I'm telling you right now. But actually, you know, that's the kind of like the deceptive or like the tricky thing about comparing audio, which is that sometimes when you're comparing high-end audio, everything just sounds great or sounds amazing, and so it's very difficult to pick out the things that are actually different between two systems. What I do know and what I can tell you in this video as the takeaway points is that 1, the mid-range on the X9000 definitely more recessed. 2, the thickness on the X9000 definitely not as thick as the 007 Mark 1s. The 007 Mark 1s, the bass is way more fluffy on the 007 Mark 1s. It's a very pleasing fluffy. It's not like bloomy. It's not too much bass. It's just enough, and the bass on the 007 Mark 1s are, to me, like prodigious. Like they are just amazing. The bass on the 007 Mark 1s, it's so satisfying once you get used to it. Once you listen to a song at live volumes on the 007 Mark 1s, the bass will just blow you away. And that's not to say that you can't listen to the 007 Mark 1s at low volumes. To me, the 007 Mark 1s sound good at low volumes, at high volumes, and at live volumes. It sounds good at all volumes. And the other takeaway is that yes, the X9000 are an amazing headphones. They sound, some of the stuff that I listen to on the X9000, they sound amazing. Like they sound real in terms of me intellectualizing that they're real. But then the X9000 is still missing that visceral quality that I have with the 007s. Every time I listen to the X9000 and I feel like something sounds real, I don't feel it. Like, I don't feel like it's real. Like, it sounds real. It doesn't feel real. Like, my brain isn't sucked into the realness. And it's something that you don't really know. Like, if you never listened to the 007s on my system, you wouldn't really know what I'm talking about. And that's the unfortunate thing about audio, which is that, you know, no matter what I tell you or how much I gush about the 007 Mark 1s, you won't really understand what I'm talking about. The only thing that I can tell you is that, for example, A Case of You by Joni Mitchell, it just sounds like her voice. Like, there's no, you know, like, you can't, when you listen to that on my 007 Mark 1 system, you can't tell yourself, oh, it can be better, or like you can't tell yourself like, oh, there's another headphone that can do this better. Like, it's just perfect. It's the way her voice sounds, the way her voice feels, the air moving from her mouth to your face and everything. It's amazing. And the X9000 sounds great, but it doesn't get there. So to finish off this video, I just want to tell you that, first of all, you know, I have no financial interest whatsoever in this video. Like, I'm not trying to resell the X9000. I don't plan to resell the X9000. I don't want to boost up its value. I don't want to do anything like that. I'm just telling you that I don't think the X9000 is a good value compared to the 007 Mark 1s. And that could be moot point to you, because the 007 Mark 1s are no longer in production. The only option you have is to buy the 007 Mark 2s, and I actually need to buy one of those at some point just to compare to my 007 Mark 1s. And I want to tell you that since my last video on the X9000s, I actually had a fortunate opportunity to buy another pair of excellent condition 007 Mark 1s. So right now I actually have two pairs of 007 Mark 1s, and I apologize to those of you who are actually looking for a pair, but you know, it's actually a good thing that you don't have one, because once you have one, I think other headphones, other audio systems, especially if you have a 007 Mark 1 system that, you know, has a proper amplifier and all that, I don't think you would, you know, when you listen to other headphones or other audio systems, you just feel like something is missing, and that's the magic of the 007 Mark 1s. So once again, thanks for, you know, listening to me talk about you know, the headphones, and I hope you got something out of this video. I am really passionate about audio because of my 007 Mark 1s. Like, I love my 007 Mark 1s like so much. I wish, you know, it's unfortunate that Stax didn't focus on making the 007 Mark 1s more accessible, cheaper for everybody to buy. Like, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me why they would move on from such a, you know, a perfect headphone. So yeah, so you know, hopefully one of these days Stax releases a newer version of the X9000 that's thicker and has a more impactful bass compared to the current version. Thank you.